Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Julian, and I'm the director for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support here at Illinois State University. We are excited to have you all with us today for our Transitions Academy fall convening. Um, we are kicking off this morning with some fun and exciting state of the state. But before we get started, I want to walk you through just a couple housekeeping items. We are on Zoom meeting. So if you go down there and toggle at the bottom, you can look at the chat. And as you click on that, you want to be sure that you're replying, either submitting those to the panelists or submitting those to everyone. You have your choice there for that today. In addition, you have that ability to mute yourself, and we will be working to keep the participants muted today. And then in addition to that, we want you to post any questions you have in the chat box because we will have time for questions throughout the day. So the Transitions Academy is sponsored by the Illinois Community College Board. It is led in partnership by SIPDC, the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center, and ICSPS, the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. So we are all online in our own spaces today here to support you. Just a couple other things. We switch sessions at 9:30, but we stay in this room. So that means we stay on this link. So please feel free to stay on. And then at 10:15, we do have a scheduled break, and we have scheduled breaks throughout the day to allow time for you to grab a snack, refresh your coffee, or whatever you need to do. Check on your kids in a lot of cases, in my case anyway. So hope everything's going well there. With that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Jennifer Foster to welcome us to the Transitions Academy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Transitions Academy. I'm so pleased to be here with you, the place where you're going to learn a lot about the importance of transitioning students to post-secondary education as well as into employment. We are so pleased to provide you with professional development that will propel you towards realizing your integrated education and training programs as well as bridge programs. We realize that the times, that these times are pretty bad for people, but we wanted to recognize, and it helps us to make us learn to do things in different ways. And so that's why we're here, and that's why we're bringing a lot of these activities to you to show the importance of digital literacy now more than ever. I think that is important to note. Not only are we trying to make ourselves literate in using some of the digital technologies, but also trying to make certain that we're working with our students. Adult Education, Title II of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, assisting those individuals with no diploma, basic skills needs, and the need for English language skills, helping them to work towards employment in high demand sectors, developing bridge programs to move individuals into more education and into employment. Career and technical education, assisting adults to earn stackable credentials, basic certificates, and advanced certificates with embedded industry recognized credentials. What a perfect partnership this is between adult education and CTE, both of which have this as a part of their plans to make certain that we're moving more adults into more training type programs. So on the Perkins 5 plan, it's discussed there, as well as in the Adult Education Act, Title II of the Adult Education Act. So what a perfect partnership, what a perfect collaboration. Integrated education and training, and I'm going to warn you that this is the biggest run-on sentence that I could possibly find. A blend of basic skills with CTE training or other workforce training designed as for credit and or non-credit opportunities, using a team teaching approach as one works to obtain employment in a high demand, high wage, in demand sector, while providing support services to alleviate barriers that may hinder a person's success to earning a family sustaining wage. And I warned you that it would be the biggest run-on sentence, but that's what you're going to do in terms of today, is talking about integrated education and training and making certain that we're building these programs for our students. We create opportunities. we create opportunities here in adult education and CTE. So we have to build it, and we have to do the things that are necessary to help individuals to access these services. What a great opportunity you have to design a program that has so many interlocking ideas and concepts, from basic skills and essential skills to stackable credentials through more training as well as employment. Thank you for being here and learning. Thank you to Kathy Olson-Tracy and Whitney Thompson and their staff for their joint leadership to make certain Illinois provides those quality services that will help more students to achieve a credential, and ultimately our goal is to get into employment. Thank you to SIPDC and ICSPS for the development of this training opportunity. Thank you for your perseverance during these times. We realize it is not an easy task, but we realize that if there's one thing that I know is that we know how to figure it out, and in the meantime, not compromise the quality of services that are provided. Keep these three things in mind. Build programs that help students to achieve success. We still have to achieve our goals and our outcomes, but we can also create career success for our adult learners and our students. We are here to give you the tools necessary for you to be, for your students to be successful, and for you to use these tools to create opportunities for our students. Thank you again, and please continue to remain healthy and safe. I will be in and out throughout the course of today, and I'm just wishing you a great workshop, great conference as you build the future for our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer, for that warm welcome.
And we'll go to the next slide.
So I guess we'll just introduce ourselves. I mean, you guys see our faces on the screen here, and we're going to be talking about the state of the state and setting the stage for the Transitions Academy. I did see a number of new folks on the Transitions Academy registration list. So you probably know who Kathy is and who I am, but we wanted to officially welcome you to the Transitions Academy and be able to set the stage for this virtual convening. And I do wish that we were in person to see all of your faces and share a glass of wine at the end of the night, right? So, all right, so we'll move right in. So the strategic direction for both adult education and career and technical education are aligned with our Illinois Community College Board goals, right? And those are to advance equity, to smooth transitions, and to promote economic development in our state, but for you all in your local economies. And so the Perkins 5-state plan includes a goal specifically around all community colleges to have an integrated education and training program by 2024. So that's 4 years from now. We, of course, made this goal before COVID-19 hit, before the pandemic hit. However, it is ever more important that we continue to expand these opportunities. And so with CTE being so vital to our economic recovery and stability, now more than ever, it's important that we continue to create those on-ramps from adult education for our adult education students to be able to access this programming. We will not be able to meet our post-secondary attainment goal, our 60 by 2025 attainment goal, without accessing this population. And part of the Perkins 5-state plan states that the purpose is to have a more educated and skilled workforce. And that's for the benefit of the individual, but a benefit for the state as a whole and as a community, as we think about, when people are more educated and more skilled, right? We know that they're more civically engaged. We know that crime goes down. We know that our communities are healthier. And so there are lots of indirect effects of these potential programs and the priorities that we want to see today.
Okay. I'm ready to I'm ready for our adult ed to face our challenges and move forward with all of the focus on IETs. Just to kind of reiterate a common theme that I hear from people is that their students are coming to get their basic skills education or their high school equivalency because they want to get a job. That's one of their primary goals. So our alignment fits very well into what the students' goals are. You know, so these are taken into consideration, and our priority is to provide opportunities for all learners to move into IETs, post-secondary education, and sustainable employment to be part of Illinois' economic recovery. This is important for their sustainable livelihood. This is important for our local, regional, and state recovery. So adult ed is very well aligned with the direction of Perkins 5, CTE, and the ISCCB board goals.
And what's really important that Kathy and I forgot to mention is that this isn't just lip service. We have put the money where our mouth is, as we have funded a number of initiatives, including even the small grants that we put out for our IET development, implementation and evaluation. You know, this Transitions Academy, right, is provided by our investments in our centers. And so, you know, we continue to make this a priority, and so you will continue to see the funding support that.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to jump into sort of where we are now.
So right now, as our most recent data has come out, that we still see over 1 million adult learners lack basic skills and a high school equivalency diploma. These students are coming to us, and their needs are still there. Although what I'm hearing from programs telling me that they're struggling with recruitment right now, the needs have not changed for our learners. They are still struggling with basic literacy and lacking a high school credential. And they were the first individuals shut out of the economy as it started to adjust with the pandemic. So where I see us going is although we have struggles as programs to move forward and provide services in a new manner to our students, their needs are still there. Our community needs are still huge. We have over 1 million adult learners to reach. As we're looking at these four icons, these are some of the highest skill areas that are necessary in the state of Illinois. This is where our shortages are. We know that we need students to step into the healthcare field. We know that we need students to go into the wholesale and manufacturing and motor vehicle operations and computer operations. What I will say is listening to Cheryl Keenan last week at another conference I had the ability to participate in. She was giving her speeches and her comments about the state of the country. And she made a very, very poignant comment that the digital literacy skills that are tied to all of these jobs are necessary. It's no longer something that we need to do as an addition, like a different class, a different program. We're going to work on digital literacy skills. It needs to be embedded in how we offer our program, because every one of these jobs is going to require students to understand technology, how to use it, how to engage with it in their career practices. So we have a huge unmet need in our state, but we have the students to fill those needs. You know, the people are there. There's just a disconnect between the skills match and the jobs they need. We have the ability to overcome that and connect these learners to fill these positions.
So this slide just shows you the progress to date, and I think Kathy will talk a little bit about the importance of the data that goes into DAISY as you're reporting. But we collected this data from 2014 to 2019 and reported that there were just around or just over 2,500 certificates that were awarded through IET programs noting that this is a duplicate count with many students earning more than one credential. From an equity perspective, there really aren't any true patterns in this data. You will see that it's really quite a roller coaster. And what I see here is probably where we had some additional investments in the grants. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but then you can see the sort of funding cliff in Illinois, right? We had the budget crisis, and you can see the counts go down there. And then, of course, they've been going up. So I think as we think about our programming, we want to make sure that equity is at the forefront and is a priority, and that we are serving those in our community. We'll talk a little bit later about data-driven decision-making, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of this data. But largely we're seeing the certificates being earned in the health sciences area, in some of the entry-level computer and business courses as well, or programs, as well as manufacturing. So, kind of going back to what Kathy was talking about in the skill shortage areas, it's really aligned. And so we want to continue to scale that, but we want to increase opportunities for our students so that they have access to the variety of occupations that are in need. And so we want to continue to expand IT. We want to continue to expand in other areas as well. So those are some considerations to keep in mind.
And the only comment I want to make about data here is that we pull this data out of our data management system, DAISY. And we were able to find all of these wonderful certificates, but many times I can't tell you what those certificates are in. For example, we have programs who type in certificate. So we know that the student has earned something, but we have no idea what it is. And it becomes very difficult for us to be able to give you the data that you need, to be able to give you the information that you need to do evidence-based practices when our data says certificate. So I'm going to put a plug in here to ask you, as you are working with your data, to make sure that the data is complete and it's not just certificate. What is that in? What does that do? So it's going to put a plug in here to make sure we have that information in our system. Okay.
So with our goals of increasing the number of IET programs and students who are accessing IET programs, we're hoping to see this continue to trend up, right? And I think that should match, right, our economic recovery of Illinois, hopefully.
Absolutely. So I want to give you a little bit of background on what we've been up to at the ICCB in the last year. 2 years ago, we did a deep dive into our outcomes, and we recognized and actually had it validated that our standards proficient training leads to increased learning gains from our students. So the second thing we looked at was our Transitions Academy. We wanted to understand the impact and if there was an impact, and then we wanted to understand what adaptations we might want to make following the data. So we worked with the American Institute of Research, and we developed a very strong survey practice. So I wanted you to know, as program administrators, the surveys we send you, we actually do stuff with. We actually use that data. What we discovered through that year-long comprehensive process was that the professional development using through the Transitions Academy has a very high positive impact in correlation to program success with running IETs and IELCEs. We know this is happening. We know that programs that participate in the Transitions Academy are situated for better success through scalability and have higher student outcomes. We also know that the data was pretty conclusive that the Transitions Academy positions colleges and adult ed programs to scale ICAPS programs across a broader range of programs of study, meaning the programs that participate with a technical assistance and the trainings coming out of the Transitions Academy tend to have more IETs, they tend to have more successful ones, and their IETs range across different areas. So we know that there is an impact in what we do. So as you're approaching this conference today and you're looking at what we can offer you for the next year. I want you to know that what we do is research-based, and we do take time to evaluate the work, and we do use the surveys that we send out to you. We use that data to bring back and say, okay, now we know what's happening. So I will tell you, as you're working through the Transitions Academy, I would get a notebook right next to you, start writing notes and comments and thoughts that you want to follow up with, because we're here to give you that information so that you're not doing it alone. Okay. And we have a lot of skill and a lot of people who can help. And what I was so proud of is we were able to take on a national level the outcomes of what we've done and said the data is pretty conclusive. This work actually leads to higher student outcomes. So I am so thrilled that we have a record number of participants this week at this academy, because we know the benefit that will happen at your program. Take your notes and get ready to write down a lot of things you're going to learn.
So we know that with COVID-19 and low enrollment, right? We know that there are lots of challenges. However, we want to see the silver lining in this, and we acknowledge that there are a lot of opportunities too for us to reimagine the way we do things, for us to pivot, right? And that's going to take some growth and going to take some change, which may not always be comfortable. But here are some sort of priorities and opportunities that we see, and we'll touch upon many of these throughout the Transitions Academy. The first being recruitment and retention. That's sort of what I always hear around the reason why an IET program doesn't get off the ground is they don't get enough students to make a cohort for the program to be viable. And so how do we get students to come to the program? How do we get their trust? How do we get their buy-in? Like, what is stopping them, right? And I think that and I know there's a number of things that are happening in adult education around recruitment, and there's been some great research there. But same for CTE, we're seeing our enrollment go down as well. So how do we get students in the door? And part of that, and we'll talk about that later today, is what program offerings are. Word of mouth is probably the #1 marketing opportunity for our students. And so if students are coming into the program, they're successful and they're making sustainable wages, they're going to be telling everyone they know about that program. And if their relationships are eligible to be in these programs, then they're going to come, right? They're going to open the gate for us. But if we're continuing to push students through programs that don't offer sustainable wages, and they're finding themselves in the same position they were before, or in occupations that are low skill, right? They're not going to see the benefit there. And so we want to continue to push you to focus on those programs that are in demand, obviously, but also high wage, high skill, right? We want to set the bar high for our students. Employer engagement, that's really crucial too, as we think about our students and their success when they leave our programs. The more engagement we have from employers, not only from a program design standpoint, but engagement with students, offering work-based learning opportunities, making sure that we have ample career services available to them, so that we're connecting students to employers so they're able to get into the career that they are being prepared for. And we'll talk a little bit about that later today too, with pre-apprenticeships and how you can embed an integrated education and training program into a pre-apprenticeship. And then focusing on competencies, and that goes back to sort of working with employers, right? And kind of reimagining the way we do higher education, getting away from thinking about just courses or programs or these credentials, right? But focusing on the actual competencies, because you'll often find that you need to pivot and revise your programs to fit and to get employer buy-in. So we want to make these pathways as seamless as possible, and make the transitions easy for our students. And so if there are drop-off points between programs or mismatch between what our program goals are and what the employers want in these students, and we acknowledge that our mission is not just to feed the employer community, but we want that clear pathway. And so these are some of our priorities and potential opportunities in a COVID world, but also a post-COVID world.
Absolutely.
Anything there, Kathy, that you would like to add before we move on?
No, I think you did an excellent job of highlighting what we're doing and what we have here.
Great.
So I knew this slide was coming, so I was going to highlight some of the things that you were saying. So all the things that Whitney outlined, all of the goals, all of what we're working on, these are the focuses of the Transitions Academy right now. What's really cool about this, again, I'm going to go back to the fact that we're field directed. We don't come up with these ideas kind of in a silo. As we're working together, and again, using those surveys we give to programs, using those questionnaires we ask you, using those conversations we have, we pull together a schedule to highlight these areas that we know we've heard comments about, we've heard questions about, to share high-level successes. So you have models, because we recognize that as we're saying, all of these things are needed. Our students need us to be there. We have these opportunities. But how do you connect those opportunities to what the students need? How do we do that? And how do we do it in a pandemic? And then how do we move and pivot into a world that's post-pandemic? And I talk in our session later today about future-proofing our students, because we're getting our students ready not only for the world that they're living in right now, but in the world that's going to be pivoting and changing and growing into a lot of different directions. So through this schedule, we're talking about recruitment. How do you recruit in a world where students are no longer going into some of our areas that we talk to them? How do you do that in a web-based environment? How do you overcome these barriers? Not only our barriers to providing services, but how do we overcome the students' barriers for participating in our programs? What does that look like? Again, we're going to highlight some of our professional development and talk about our virtual learning communities. They're giving you opportunities to network and share successes and ask questions of your peers. So we have all of these embedded into our day. We are looking at what are the components of the IETs and Bridge programs, so that as you build them, you're building them not only to adhere to what the WIOA requirements are, OCTA's requirements are, you're building them so that they're successful. And most importantly, successful for your students. All of this is supposed to be designed so that we have success for students. When we talk about those shared learning objectives, when we talk about those support systems, it's not just because I want to add more work to your day and filling out documents and thinking through that. We know that these are the foundations of a program that's going to get that student to a credential, that's going to get that student to their goal. Remember, students are coming into our programs telling us they want to get a job. They want to get their high school equivalency so they can go get a job. That's their goal. So we can work together and help them reach that goal beyond a high school credential in a much faster capacity so that they can become sustainable. So you're going to see virtual services modeled. You're going to see program models over the next 2 days. So again, get your notebook ready, have it next to your computer, make your notes, make your comments, ask your questions, engage in this academy in a way that will help you walk away from it with ideas that you're excited about implementing, and models that will work for you. And understand that after this academy is over on Friday, that is the beginning of our work to help you build all of these ideas that you've learned in the next today and tomorrow. So I hope that you find everything in here that is meaningful to you. We are going to be here through the conference and beyond to help you take these ideas from just something you've learned about in the conference to something you can implement at your program.
Yeah, in many of these sessions, we're going to be doing a deep dive and really diving into the key elements and components of an IET program, right? Talking about those effective, successful practices modeled by your colleagues. And before we switch over to our 9:30 session, I just want to thank the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center, SAPDC, got that acronym right, finally, and Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support under Bevan and Amy, Bevan Gibson and Amy Julian. Without these two centers, our work in this area would not be possible. And so we want to thank them. We're excited for today. I know I'm excited. I know Kathy's excited. And in addition to the sessions, we're going to have a lunch sort of networking facilitated conversation. So I encourage you to grab your lunch and and participate in those. We won't have any conference chicken, so unless you're having conference chicken at home. So anyways, awesome. Thanks for joining in today, and we look forward to engaging with you over the next 2 days.